All right, we'll call the meeting, the Planning Commission agenda. Oh, we're not on the air yet. We're not on the air. There we go. All right. We'll call this meeting to order as the regular Planning Commission meeting of May 23rd. Roll call?
Attendance noted.
Excellent. And next we'll do approval of the minutes from the regular Planning Commission meeting of March 28th, 2016.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Excellent. And then we have the opportunity for citizens to address the commission on items not on the agenda. Is there anybody who would like to address the commission? Seeing none, we'll move right into item number 1, which is my agenda here. Consider request for planned unit development conditional use permit, final development plan to allow the construction of quasi-public shoreline improvements along the eastern edge of Richfield Lake. Staff?
Thank you. So this is the first of 3 items that are going to have to do with the former Lindale Garden Center property. And starting with this one, in 2013, just to refresh everybody's memory, the Cornerstone Group received approvals for the entire property. The plans included a 151-unit apartment building, approximately 10,000 square feet of retail and restaurant space, and outdoor activity areas along Richfield Lake. It also encompassed the land that now houses Lake Winds Co-op and a vacant lot just south of their parking lot. Land use approvals typically expire after 1 year unless extensions are requested. Despite a couple of extensions, the approvals related to this project expired in December of last year. The Cornerstone Group continues to work toward redevelopment of the site in order to take advantage of grant funds that will expire next June of 2017. The applicant is requesting approval of just the shoreline improvements along the eastern edge of the lake. The improvements include a performance stage with seating for up to 250 people, bike and pedestrian connections to the existing path, and community garden space. The applicant has indicated that a proposal for the remainder of the site is anticipated by the end of June of this year. Construction of the shoreline improvements is anticipated to begin in October. Those will take approximately 4 to 6 months, and the performance stage would be available for use by next summer of 2017. Due to the uncertainty of what will happen with the other land use approvals, staff has recommended approval of the proposal, but has included a stipulation requiring staff approval of a parking plan prior to the scheduling of any events at the amphitheater. There are a number of requirements that apply to planned unit developments and conditional use permits. Those are all detailed in your staff report and the attachment. I'm not going to go over the specifics of those unless there are questions. I did want to mention that we did receive 1 comment about this proposal, and it was against the proposal, specifically the amphitheater. The concern was related to potential impacts on wildlife in the area. And then tonight, Colleen Carey, president of the Cornerstone Group, is here, and she is happy to answer questions, as am I.
For staff?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, Melissa, on the parking, are you saying then that all parking requirements will be on a case-by-case basis? So whenever there's an event at the performance stage, then we'll deal with parking, or what did you mean by that?
Right. Right now, we're saying that specific approvals for each event would be necessary by staff. That's because we're not sure what's going to happen with the housing proposal. The housing proposal could come through. We could be confident that everything's going to work out, and we can remove this stipulation at that time as part of that development, or leave it in place until we see how things kind of shuffle out. It's always been a bit of a question mark how the amphitheater would be parked with all of these, if it would be at the same time as a potential farmers market event or something else. There were a lot of moving pieces here. And so we've included this stipulation just to cover us in the future. We want to talk about it again, see where the housing portion of the development is when they are ready to open the amphitheater.
So, but right now, if the housing project goes through, then that part of that parking that needed for the 250 potential participants would be included in that housing parking that
Yes.
would be in that. And you know, the only other alternative would be at the shopping center, you know, down the street. Would that be considered in parking issues with, I mean, or is that completely off base or?
Nope. So just to remind the commission, when this project was initially approved in 2013, there was a parking study done. And it looked at whether or not there would be enough parking for the co-op, the housing, the retail, a potential farmer's market along Lindale Avenue, and then events. And what that parking study anticipated was that if there was a farmer's market event and an amphitheater event, there could be parking shortages. So those those now expired approvals included stipulations saying that the developer was going to have to come up with a parking plan that could possibly include valet, could include other off-site options. And those things will likely all come up again
Yeah.
as the housing portion gets reworked out.
Well, I think the parking, I think if I remember, we kind of even thought about over there where the LA Fitness is, but I don't know if any of you have been over there lately with all the new businesses. That is really restricted over there now. I mean, that cannot, I don't think, be counted as a possibility for parking because there's just a lot of activity over there at this time. And so, can I ask a question of Ms. Carey? Just have a quick. They brought up about the wildlife, and I was just wondering, has Audubon Society or any other environmental group contacted you about any kind of study or anything going about the birds over at Richfield Lake? Because I have friends that are bird watchers, and they say there's a lot of species over there that are really, you know, worthwhile watching. And so I was wondering if you'd been contacted or have done anything with Audubon Society.
My name is Colleen Carey. I'm the president of the Cornerstone Group. We've not been contacted by anybody except people that were in favor of the band shell. But we shouldn't even use that word. It's really a performance stage. And it will be small scale concerts. And so I don't think we're talking about something that's going to be very disruptive to wildlife. So I haven't gotten any calls. But could I say a little more about the parking question as long as I am up here? So we've always anticipated, like Melissa said, that we're going to have to do this on a case-by-case basis. It will really depend on what kind of events we're having and what we end up with for the final site plan for the housing development. So right now, there's hundreds of spaces to park in over there, although we're about to have an item on your agenda that might use some of those. But we know that we need to have a parking plan before we have events. And we hope we get to a point where we can all agree that there are some things that we know how we're going to do them, and we don't need to come in each time and get a special approval, but we just say, for this kind of an event, here's what the parking plan is. And for bigger events, we'll have to probably be, having a regular conversation. So I don't think we have any disagreement about the parking at all. We know we're going to have to sort of learn as we go on this, but in the near term, we don't have any parking problems. And once the housing development is up, then we'll know exactly how much on-site parking we have.
So depending on the housing development, would that performance stage change in any way, scale back, get bigger?
No,
or
the configuration of it will stay the same. It's really a part of the amenities of the housing project too.
Okay.
So, yeah.
So, and it's an open air, flat stage type of thing?
Yes,
I mean, I looked at the. Okay.
Yes, it is. It's a flat stage.
Okay, and it's right up next to the water, isn't
It
it?
is.
Okay, all right, thanks.
Well, this is open house, so we'll open the open house if anybody would like to speak. We get a motion then to close the open house
I move that we close the public hearing.
hearing? Thank you.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Right. Commissioners, any other comments, questions?
I just wanted to ask, on the plan, it shows limits of work as being very confined around the stage area. So is there not actually going to be any connection to Lindale at this point?
That's correct. There's no proposed connection to
Okay.
Lindale through the, right.
Okay. Will the existing asphalt or whatever at least be passable, or is the only way from Richfield Lake to get to this?
No, the asphalt right now is passable. It's
Okay.
not in fantastic condition, but it is absolutely manageable.
A question? I don't know if this is staff or Colleen, but I'm just curious, as far as the grant and so on, if the complex does not go through, is there any reason that the property can't be developed as has been stated. And then what happens like in the case of a transfer of property later on, once that grant is done and that property is, if it comes to fruition, as a conscious stage and so on?
Okay, I'm going to do my best to answer that. Maybe Colleen can help me. In terms of the grant, Colleen's going to have to answer those questions, but if the grant funds are spent and the stage is built and the property is transferred, all of these land use approvals move with the land as opposed to the developer. So if they sold this to someone else, the same conditions for scheduling and the way that it would need to be built and maintained would apply to that new owner.
And I guess the second part of my question was, does the grant go through no matter what, even if the development doesn't take place?
The grant funds are specific to the shoreline improvements. If they are not built, I believe the grant funds will be returned. Is that? If the shoreline improvements are not built, yes, the grant funds would be returned.
Anybody else? Do we have a motion?
I'd like to move the staff recommendation.
Second?
All approved?
Aye. Aye.
Any against? All right, motion carries. So moving on to our second item then. Item number 2 is consider request for an interim use permit for temporary and occasional Lake Winds Co-op employee parking at 6430 Lindale Avenue, which is the vacant lot south of Lake Winds Co-op. Staff?
Thank you. And again, this is that same Lindale Garden Center property. This parking lot or vacant lot was proposed to be green space as a part of the overall PUD approval. The lot was also to be available for overflow parking. So it was going to be planted, it was going to be green space, but with a turf that could hold up to occasional parking during events. Obviously, the development on the north side hasn't been completed, and nothing ever happened with this vacant lot. The Cornerstone Group has just sold this lot to Lake Winds. Current parking at Lake Winds exceeds the city's allowable maximums. That, again, was allowed as part of the PUD because we thought that there would be this sharing as part of the entire development, especially during events. Despite this overage on the Lake Winds side, occasionally Lake Winds says that there are parking shortages, and the shortages occur a few times a year in the summer and in the days leading up to Thanksgiving. They've expressed that their need for additional parking is about 20 days per year. Parking is not permitted as the primary use of a parcel, I'm sure you all know, nor is the creation of parking above and beyond allowable maximums permitted without a parking study. Lake Winds has requested an interim use permit in order to alleviate the occasional shortages while they evaluate the actual long-term parking needs for the store and what might eventually happen with the north side of the development. Given that the current shortages occur so infrequently, staff is recommending only minor cleanup of the site, some landscaping along the eastern edge to kind of screen what is now gravel, some weeds, that kind of thing. Staff believes that paving and striping would encourage use of the lot by non-employees on a more regular basis, and that is certainly not our intent. It is just to alleviate this hardship a few days a year. Staff is recommending approval of a 2-year interim use permit with the possibility of a 1-year administrative extension. The permit would allow employee parking on the site for up to 45 days per year. We wanted to make sure, they requested 20 days. We wanted to make sure that they weren't coming back and saying, we just need 10 more. So we extended that a little bit. Again, the purpose of an interim use permit is precisely for a use like this. It's to allow something that may not be permitted long-term, but could be allowed for a limited period of time with conditions as future development is studied. Tonight, Lake Winds representative Jared Hensel, the store manager, is here. I'm sure he could answer any questions about parking problems that they're having, and I would be happy to answer any questions you have for staff.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions to start off? All right, this is a, oh, go ahead.
Oh, I'm just curious. So if the purpose is only employee parking, is there a reason why on those select days the employees couldn't simply park on the street nearby?
There isn't street parking.
Well, not on Lindale, but I mean, across Lindale. Oh, there is not? Okay. All right.
I generally have a question. So I drove past and drove through the lot today on my way here, and there were cars parked on this dirt lot right now, and the parking lot wasn't full. What are we doing to stop that so that it is this limited just overflow parking? Or do we put up signs? Are there other requirements?
Right. So I noticed that the other day as well, and I haven't had a chance to check in with Lake Winds about it. I'm not sure if it's employees who are parking over there already. I would imagine that it is. I don't think customers would drive up the curb, but perhaps they are.
It's a little bit of both, I think. It's hard to identify the vehicles, but I have noticed some people from the vet clinic there parking there sometimes too. But up to this point, we've just asked Colleen for permission to park there once in a while for these type of events. And so employees have kind of become conditioned, so to speak, to think that it's okay to park there. And until we cleared this process, we didn't have any communication as to otherwise. So now that this is happening, we can communicate with staff. You know, we're only parking there on these particular.
Sir, could you let us know who you are?
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm Jared Hensel. I'm the store manager at Lake Winds Food Co-op. Does that answer your question?
Somewhat.
Okay.
So the lot will be signed employee parking only, and plantings will be installed along the edges. It will be even less inviting to park there than it is now.
Okay.
And again, it's something that we can monitor and we can work with Lake Winds on if we're noticing any problems with it.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, this is a public hearing. If anybody would like to speak. If not, oh, yep, come on up. Say your name, address, 3 minutes.
My name is Jim Thomas, and I live at 608 West 64th Street, and I've owned that property for 25 years. And I moved back in recently because of a divorce. And the thing that there is a problem with over there is parking. The new apartment building does not have enough parking spaces for all their tenants that live in the building. So for the first time that I've seen, the streets are just lined with they're parking in front of my house bumper to bumper to bumper. And I don't know, I just think that a good suggestion to this parking problem would be to acquire that efficiency rundown apartment building that sits there and maybe build a parking garage there. And it would solve problems for a lot of different businesses that want to come into that area. But it is not a very nice building. I live right next door to it and have had a lot of issues over the years with both tenants living in there and now with me living in there. So that's all I really have to say. I just think it would be a good suggestion, you know, for the city or, you know, to acquire it and build a small parking garage and then have a ramp that goes over Lindale and solve everything. But anyway, just an idea.
Thank you. All right, anyone else for the public hearing? All right, if not, I'll ask for a motion to close.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor? Say
Aye.
Motion carries. So, comments, questions from commissioners? None? All right. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, item number 3 is consider a request for interim use permit for temporary automobile inventory storage parking at 6400 Lindale Avenue, former Lindale Gardens site. Staff.
Okay, same site, different side. This is the north side. Right. Richfield, Bloomington, Honda, and Mitsubishi currently park inventory in the parking ramp at the Best Buy headquarters along 494. Approximately 600 vehicles are stored at this location. Last fall, Best Buy agreed to lease office space to Health Partners, who will soon move approximately 500 employees to this site. Inventory storage will no longer be possible there. While Honda and Mitsubishi work to prepare a permanent site for vehicle storage, they're asking to temporarily park some of this inventory on the vacant Lindale Garden Center lots. The Cornerstone Group has stated that the site would be available for parking for about 4 months, with the potential for month-to-month extensions depending on development progress. As I stated in the last report, parking is not permitted as a primary use of a parcel, hence the IUP request. Given the expressed short duration of the need and the potential for redevelopment soon after, staff is recommending, again, only minor cleanup. We would support this situation for up to 4 months. If an extension is requested, paving and striping similar to what was done at the other Honda interim use permit site, which is the south half of the former Public Works garage, would be required. Staff is recommending an allowance for 1 administrative extension of up to 6 months. I'm gonna again skip over the specifics of an interim use permit. I think you're all familiar and they were included in your report unless you have questions. Richfield Bloomington Honda and Mitsubishi representatives are here tonight if you have questions for them, and I will stand for questions as well.
Excellent. All right. Does anyone have any questions for staff or for the dealership?
Sorry, just one question, Melissa. If, given the timing, if it is a 4-month deal, would that month would start in June?
Right. Actually, this is going to the council, right, it would start June 1st. This goes to the council tomorrow night. So we have back-to-back approvals here.
Even with a 1-month extension, it would put it into a position where if it kicked into that post 4 months period, they actually wouldn't be able to get hot mix in for paving or striping?
Richfield, Bloomington, Honda, and Mitsubishi are aware of the
All right.
conditions on their permit.
Okay, just checking.
All right. Well, this is a public hearing. Anybody want to come up? All right. If not, we'd ask for a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. I do have a couple questions. Go ahead.
Thank you. I did just want to ask what the status is, particularly because this is the second time in a few months that we've heard a temporary use for their cars. What is the status of the parking on the Honda site? And are we going to keep seeing them shifting cars around the city?
I'm going to let Honda answer that question.
Good evening, Commissioners. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. My name is Tim Carter. I'm the General Manager at Richfield Bloomington Honda. And Sean, I hope we don't have to, moving 600 cars takes about a week at a time, so we hope we don't have to do that. We are looking for a potential short-term, affordable, long-term solution, if that makes any sense. Our long-term solution is doing a ramp here on site. But we just put in over $30 million of investment in that development, and we're needing to cash flow that to a certain point before we can put that plan in place. So in the meantime, we're looking for temporary solutions that we can lease for as long as probably 3 years, and then move on from there. So we like to have one spot that's big enough, but we can't find one spot big enough. So we're looking at little pockets of 100 here and 200 there. So we plan on trying to have a medium temporary solution in place by the end of this 4 months. That's pretty much going to just buy us time enough to get that in place. Yep.
I had the same question, but also, if you had 600 spots at Best Buy and this is about 280, 290, where are the rest going?
We are going to have 200 over at the Galleria Mall,
Okay.
and that takes up 400, and I'm still looking for another 200. So if you have any ideas, that would be, we're open. So we have about a week to get this accomplished.
And this space right now is dirt?
It's broken up pavement.
Right, right.
It
Broken
was
up
paved
pavement.
and, okay. So nothing on it right now?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else have any questions?
Just one. Due to the condition of that pavement, is there any adverse impact on the lake?
You know, the proposal was reviewed by our Recreation Services Director, and the Public Works Department. They didn't mention anything. I don't think that the parking lot is in such poor condition that they were worried about that. Not to mention the fact that these cars will come in, it's not customer traffic coming in and out. It's sit and park until it's ready to go.
And these are all brand new cars, so they're not like there's going to be oil dripping and that type of thing, so it'll look clean.
Anyone else? Is there a motion?
Did we already close public hearing? I
Yep.
momentarily lost track. I move that we approve the interim use permit for parking.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, moving on. Do we have any new business that isn't on the agenda? Old business? Probably none. Liaison reports then. Community Service Advisory Commission.
Okay, let's see. Basically, most of their meeting was to just talking about the garage sale, which already took place this last weekend, farmer's market, and then the big Memorial Day festivities over at Vets Memorial Park. So that the Vets Memorial Park, I can't remember the exact time. I think it was, I'm thinking 2 p.m., but I'm not sure. So check the website, though, for that, because they've got a lot of speakers and bands, and it's just going to be a nice celebration over there. They also talked about, a big item on there was organized garbage collection, and there were some representatives that from the city that had come in, residents, that had put together a petition. I think they got several hundred people, and looking at one trash or 2 trash pickup days for like what Bloomington does. And they were interested in that, so they put together this petition. So then there was discussion relative to what would happen, considering that they're trying to look at this other single garbage hauler situation, and maybe keeping those 2 separate, basically. One is the pickup and one is the hauler situation. Nothing will take place on that decision for the garbage hauling, and they won't put together a plan or anything until after Bloomington settles their issues that are going on as far as court and that kind of stuff. So they want to kind of play that out, see how it goes, and then make decisions after that. Talked about just the sound wall over at Roosevelt Park, some issues. People say that when they're leaving there, they're having some issues with sightline and that kind of stuff. There was just general discussion on that, nothing firm yet, because that's all going to be developing along as the tunnel goes under and so on, or over, or whatever happens there. So that whole scenario as far as leaving Roosevelt Park could be a little bit different at that time, so that'll be looked at in the future. And then there was a look at a boating ordinance for Taft Lake, because they put in a new fishing pier there, and the next continuation of that was to have to allow just kayaks on there or whatever. And I think one of the sporting firms has said that they would like to conduct some training and that kind of stuff out there, along with it will help the parks, and so it'd be just small kayaks or something like that they'd allow out there. So that's not finished yet, but they're just kind of brainstorming and bringing back ideas. And last thing that was of importance was designs for the parks and the signs that are at the parks for introducing each park and how to kind of fix those up. And there's a couple parks that need it this year, and they'll be kind of transitioning that in as it goes along. No firm plans on that either, just discussion on it. So that's all.
City Council?
Being from the west side and seeing that the Baker Square restaurant place has been closed for so long, we all keep wondering when that's going to happen. And I was going through the minutes of the City Council, and that I don't know how to pronounce it, Giordano's, the restaurant, the pizza place, they applied for their liquor license. So that means things are moving forward. And even though it's still dark over there and there hasn't been a whole lot of activity, so that I just keep thinking, well, maybe the construction season hasn't started for them yet. But anyway, it's going to happen. So I thought that was the best thing about the minutes that I read. So
Excellent.
we're anxious for that spot to be filled up. We all miss Baker Square. But.
Permits have been issued for the site, and I believe they have started some work. Maybe
Oh, have
just
they
getting-
inside?
Mhm.
Okay. So they were supposed to have like a patio out there. I mean, that
Yep.
was kind of thing. So it's trying to figure out, is it gonna be on the 66th side or on the
Nope. I
shopping center
forget,
side?
I'm sorry, I forgot that those plans didn't come before you.
Yeah.
So it is Giordano's Pizza. They
Mhm.
are out of Chicago. It's a deep dish pizza. There's one in Uptown now. This will be the second in the metro. They are going to redo the southwest corner of the building, tear off those walls, and put in it'll be 2 stories of glass, 2 stories tall. There will not be a second story inside the building. All windows, kind of a showpiece on that southwest corner.
Oh, southwest, okay.
So facing 66th Street.
Mm-hmm.
And then there will be a patio that wraps kind of the northeast corner. If you are familiar with the site, there's an existing mature tree there on the north side of the building. They're going to save the tree, build the patio around it, so the tree will provide some shade on that patio. They're redoing the sidewalks, putting in a lot of landscaping to protect that patio. It should be a really nice amenity over there.
You know, if I could, speaking of sidewalks, I don't know if many of you have looked at this on Portland. It is really nice, the reconstruction, what's going on there. I was really impressed by the sidewalks because I've walked on 66 so many times and felt the wind of the cars going by as I'm trying to, this is during my campaigning days, but it's going to be so nice to have nice sidewalks along 66. So all this construction will be for the good, I think. We're putting up with it. But I just noticed, I was on Portland this weekend, and I was really impressed with what's happened there. So looking forward to 66 being that way.
All right, next is the HRA, and they sold a house. They're going to build a 3-bedroom, 3-car garage, I believe, on 10th Street. So that's kind of the latest happening there. Richfield School Board,
No report.
Transportation Commission. Speaking of construction,
Yeah, well, I have to concur with Commissioner Rosenberg about the sidewalks on Portland. I've walked on that route almost every time I've come to these meetings, and they are dramatically better. So yeah, I look forward to that being done as well. In terms of what we talked about, the first thing was the 66th Street bus detour. Obviously, the 515 runs down 66th Street. Ridgefield is almost its entire route. So during construction of 66th Street, they're discussing what to do. The official auto detour is the crosstown, and obviously if it only serves Ridgefield and it's on the highway, it can't serve any bus customers. So they're hoping to have it be on 65th Street, west of 35W and 67th East. So there was a short-term detour that council approved for a shorter closure, and they're going to see sort of what the impacts are like and how that works with the neighborhood, especially because the west side, 65th, is pretty narrow there. The other thing was a couple bike projects. 70th Street, Three Rivers has funding to install bike lanes on 70th Street between Old Cedar, the new trail in Old Cedar, and Lyndale Avenue. So pretty much a whole eastern section of 70th would get bike lanes sometime next year. And then there's also a neighborhood bikeway thing. These were planned a while ago, but this is the first implementation after the streets have been repaved. They're going to be installing shared lane markings on some neighborhood streets to provide some quieter bike routes. And there is an open house regarding that tomorrow at 4:30 at Madison Park, if you're interested.
has there been any discussion with the detours and the repaving of the streets that's kind of wrecking the streets as we detour so much traffic through those side roads?
They did talk about that a little bit, but I think according to staff, like the heavy traffic, especially the buses, yeah, there aren't enough buses and they're not heavy enough. Like even a garbage truck is much heavier than a bus. So it's not going to destroy the street by coming every 15 minutes.
Thank you. Chamber of Commerce.
No report.
Is there any others that we missed? No? All right. Then, City Planners Report.
Great, so I just want to remind everyone that there is a study session tomorrow night with the City Council and the Housing and Redevelopment Authority to talk about the Cedar Corridor Master Plan. The City Council, you may have heard, did choose a route for Richfield Parkway north of 68th Street, and that will come down 18th Avenue instead of Cedar. The route for Richfield Parkway south of 68th Street is still up for discussion. As part of that, we're going to be talking about the land uses now. There were some tentative land uses, some kind of vague categories on those earlier maps if you attended the open house, talking about market-driven redevelopment, that kind of thing. But now we're going to start to put those colors on, the colors that you're familiar with, the colors of the comprehensive plan and the colors of the zoning ordinance, and talk about the kind of redevelopment that we want to see in that area in the future, especially with the redevelopment, the Anderson proposal that's coming in north of 68th Street for the multifamily housing, and now with much of the funding for the 77th Street tunnel, we think that there could be some pressure, and we want to get a plan adopted, get as much community input now before they're at our doorstep. So tomorrow night, policymakers are going to get together, talk about some potential options, and then those options, based on that feedback, we're going to take some options to the community. That open house is scheduled for June 1st at the Mount Calvary Education Building from 4 p.m. to 7 p.m. There is not a presentation, so folks can show up anytime within that window to talk to us about their feelings on what should happen over there.
All right, well, next meeting, as I said, is tomorrow, so hope to see most of you there. If there's nothing else, do we vote the meeting to close? Yes.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Everyone in favor say aye.
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 All right, meeting's adjourned. Thank you.